Greetings to all and welcome to a very special Q&A session with our good friend Jim McCarty. 4 days ago, at the time of this recording, was April 1st, 2025, which marked the 10-year anniversary of our dear friend Carla's passing into larger life. Today, Jim is going to share the eulogy for Carla that he delivered at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Louisville, Kentucky on April 17th, 2015. And we're going to dedicate the rest of our time today to celebrating the memory of Carla and her special place in our heart. So let's get started, shall we? My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group, and we do meet on Zoom twice a week. Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time and Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join us. You can contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week to let you know what we'll be talking about, as well as the Zoom links. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of podcast episodes, as well as previous Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty, as well as Austin Bridges, Gary Bean, and Trisha Bean from the L&L Research Channeling team. If you go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button, you'll get notifications when we upload new videos. And contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to sit in on any of our Q&A sessions. Otherwise, as mentioned, today is a very special episode. Today, we're going to dedicate to the memory of our dear friend, Carla. How are you feeling today, Jim?
I'm doing well.
Good, good. I can't even imagine what it's like for you, everything that's going through your head and through your heart this week. I guess 10-year anniversary isn't really that different from 9-year. And yet, I don't know, there's something about round numbers. Does this anniversary feel any different to you than the other ones?
Oh, it does. All of them seem like it was 100 years ago. Time has just gone so, I don't know what to say about it. It just seems like it's been much longer than 10 years that she's been gone.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
At least her body's been gone.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm sure there are many folks on our Zoom call and many folks watching on video later who have felt Carla's spirit, their presence in their life in some way. And look forward to hearing that too. Also, if folks have some stories to share on that. I did also want to note today, I think April 5th is also a pretty special anniversary of another sort, is it not?
Well, this is 41 years that it's been since I've been here. Don, Carl, and I moved here on April 5th, 1980. No, 84.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, so 41 years. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So super special as well. And we can talk about that at some point if we wish. But I believe you wanted to share the eulogy that you delivered at Carla's memorial service in 2015. I would love to start with that if you don't mind, and then we can take questions and go from there.
Okay. Well, I'd like to begin first by telling you that this year, Easter is on the 20th of April. But Carla passed into larger life between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday on the Wednesday. And it was his favorite time of year because on Friday, on Good Friday, her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, was crucified in order to raise from the dead 3 days later to let us know that it is only our bodies that die. And that we are spirits that are here in the third density to learn how to love each other. And so that was what I thought was very important. I don't think it was an accident. I think maybe pre-incarnatively chosen. I don't know. But
I'm sure it was not an accident or just coincidence. Yeah. Okay. And I didn't know that part of the timing. I knew it was on April 1st, which I thought was either the best April Fool's Day prank ever or the worst. I'm not sure which, but I knew that day was special. But the timing with Good Friday and Easter Sunday, I didn't know about. So you delivered the eulogy about 2 weeks after her passing on
right.
April 17th?
Yeah, over at St. Luke's here in Anchorage, about 3 blocks away. She and I were married at Calvary Episcopal Church in downtown Louisville. But after a period of time, it was more efficient for her to join the St. Luke's. And she sang in their choir for 5 years. And then she had that wound on her back that wouldn't heal. So for the next 5 years, she was just there in spirit with them, which is what I mentioned in here in my eulogy.
Nice. Yeah, when you're ready, I'd say go for it with the eulogy. Would love to hear it.
Okay. Today, this is what for my Camelot Journal entry, so that this is actually not today, is the 10th anniversary of the passing into larger life of Carla Elizabeth Ruckert. And in her memory, I would like to share the eulogy that I gave at St. Luke's Episcopal Church here in Anchorage, Kentucky, on April 17, 2015. Carla said that she wanted to wait until about 3 weeks after she had left her body to have her funeral, because she wanted friends and relatives who might be living a long distance from Anchorage to have a chance to attend her funeral. So Carla Elizabeth Ruckert McCarty was born on July 16, 1943 in Lake Forest, Illinois. Carla was a child prodigy. At the age of 3, she could read the newspaper, speak French, and read music. She would have started singing in the adult church choir then, but she wasn't strong enough to hold the hymnal all the way through the processional until the next year when she was 4 years old. She was also the friendliest little girl her mother had ever seen. When they took the bus to go downtown and shop, little Carla would wander up and down the aisle, speaking to everyone who was on the bus. She did not know a stranger. Her mother was mortified. Carla's mother was a teacher and enjoyed working with her very intelligent child before school teachers got their hands on her mind. Her mother wanted to explore the world through her child's eyes, and so she asked Carla to write her thoughts down in response to the question, "Who are you?" So 5-year-old Carla sat down and in her childish printing wrote down that she was a girl and a daughter, that she was a member of society, a citizen of the world, and she was a child of the Creator. When she was born, her left eye was pointed at her brow, and it was about a year later when surgery was able to correct the defect, and then she started wearing glasses. A fascinating experience occurred because she had to wear glasses at such an early age. One day, when she was 2 years old, and when it was time for her to take her afternoon nap, her mother put her in her crib next to the window and closed the Venetian blinds. Before she went to sleep, Carla took her glasses off and put them between the blinds, which were drawn for her nap. Then she lay down and saw that there was a light coming through the slit in the Venetian blinds. When it went through her glasses, it made a beam of light that she was able to use to slide out of her body and go to what seemed like a magic forest. The animals would communicate with her. Colors were more vivid. And when she went to the center of the forest, there she would see Jesus. He didn't look like the paintings that you usually see. His hair was long, matted, and dusty from the road. His robe was dusty too, and he never spoke a word. But when he held her hand and looked into her eyes, she immediately knew what unconditional love was. This experience occurred many times over the next few years. When she was 5 years old, she told her mom and dad about the experience, and they told her that it was not real. It was in her mind, that she'd made it up. So the experience never happened again. But her devotion to Jesus as her Lord and Savior began then and never wavered throughout her life. And from that point on, love would become her way of looking at the world. Those two parts of this experience never changed for her. Because of Carla's intelligence, her mom and dad gave her more responsibilities at an earlier age than most kids would ever have. She babysat her younger brother, Jimmy, when she was only 7 years old. When she was 10, she cooked for the family, even though she had to stand on a chair to reach the top of the stove. Her mom and dad felt that with her high intelligence, she should be pushed to excel more by constructive criticism than by being given praise. So by the age of 13, she believed that she was a failure, and she prayed to die because she felt that she could not be of service. Since her meeting with Jesus, service to others was the way she believed that she could express the love that she had felt from him. And if she couldn't serve as Jesus had inspired her to do, then she wanted to die. 6 months later, her kidneys failed, and she had a near-death experience. She again went to a place where the animals communicated with her. She could see music in the air, a rose twined round her arm, and just over the hill, she could see the top of a temple. She knew that her spiritual family and friends were in the temple and waiting for her. But as she proceeded up the hill, a clear and very heavenly voice told her that it was not her time. It said that she had chosen a great deal to learn in her life, and perhaps she should make another plan that would use another childhood and split the load between 2 lifetimes. Carla couldn't stand the thought of having to go through another childhood, so she said that she would go back and complete this life. And immediately she was back in her body, which was racked with pain. There was a circle of doctors' and nurses' faces gathered over her. She chose a hard road in coming back because it offered more chances to serve others, and so she did. When she graduated from McDuffie High School for Girls in Springfield, Massachusetts, her test scores were so high that she was offered scholarships from all the Ivy League schools and the Seven Sisters schools as well. But when she went to Wellesley to see the school, she couldn't believe how disgusting and preppy the parties were that were used to recruit prize students. So she returned home to attend the University of Louisville, much to the chagrin of her mom and dad. Again, because of her high test scores, she was admitted to the university as a junior under a program that was used only for a couple of years. Her great love in college was philosophy. She was a natural-born philosopher. So one of the first courses she took was a graduate-level course in ethics. After about 2 weeks of class lectures on various philosophers, the professor gave the first assignment. He said that they talked about a number of philosophies in the first 2 weeks, but now he wanted them to write original philosophy on the topic of their choice. He didn't want to hear any other philosopher quoted back to him. He wanted their original work. So Carla went home, got out her 8.5 by 11-inch yellow legal pad and her pencil, and wrote on the topic of free will. She filled the front sheet, turned it over, and wrote halfway down the backside. When she went back to the next class to hand the paper in, she was somewhat shaken when she saw that her classmates, graduate students all, were handing in 20, 30, and 40-page typewritten papers. She thought maybe she had made an error. When the students came back to class the next week, the professor walked around the room and handed each student his or her paper and gave out the grade at the same time: D, F, C, D, etc., until all the papers were handed back, except Carla didn't get her paper back. Then he said, "I gave 1A on this assignment, and I'm going to read you the paper." Then he proceeded to read her 1.5-page paper on the topic of free will. Then he said, "Now that is original philosophy. That is what I was looking for." Just before she got her degree from the University of Louisville, she began dating a fellow who said that she was such a sweet little girl that he wanted to take care of her because she really didn't know what the world was like. He told her that it was a rough and mean place, and that she needed protection in order to be safe. That idea upset Carla greatly. She was sure that if you treated people with love, they would treat you with love. So, to test that belief, she dropped out of the university and got a job at a sleazy nightclub in downtown Louisville called The Shack. It was a popular hangout for gamblers, numbers runners, and pimps and prostitutes. Her dad was an engineer by day and a jazz drummer by night, and he convinced the owner to give Carla a job, even though she wouldn't be a pro like the other girls she would be working with. When guys would ask her for a date, she would politely tell them that she wasn't a pro, but she could get one of the other girls to go out with them. Or she might just listen to their problems and give them reassurance and advice. The Shack had live music, and when the band would take a break, Carla would go up on the stage and sing folk songs a cappella. She became much beloved, and that was demonstrated one day in a potentially dangerous way. A stranger came into the bar and asked her for a date. She told him that she wasn't a pro, but that she could get him a date with one of the other girls. But he wouldn't let her go, and he began giving her a hard time. And the whole place went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. And then what she did hear was a beer bottle breaking across the room, and then another, and another. Her friends were about to defend her, but the intruder wisely decided to call it a day and quickly left. For Carla, that was validation of her belief that if you gave love, you got love back, even if it came in the form of a broken beer bottle. Her first husband, who was known as D, was a student of a professor who would become central in Carla's life. Don Elkins was a professor of physics at the University of Louisville, and D was taking Intro to Physics from him. In his off time, Don was in the process of starting a meditation group and invited D, 11 of his classmates, to be part of it. He asked if he could bring his girlfriend along. Don said, sure. After 4 years, 7 mistresses, and after leaving Carla 4 times, D eventually asked Carla for a divorce, which she happily granted. So, when she went back to the meditation group, she began to spend time with Don, and he eventually moved in with her. When Don told her that he knew that they were going to be together after meeting her for the first time, she asked him why he didn't tell her that before she married D. And Don said, I knew that you would get a lot of good catalyst and grow from it. To which Carla replied, thanks a lot. From that point on, she began to work for Don, as he was a physics professor by day only. On his own time, he was very interested in UFOs and the general field of the paranormal. And he needed someone like Carla that could read the existing literature in the field, take notes, and then compare them to the material that he had collected since the mid-50s. Don was also a pilot and would fly to different parts of the country to investigate close encounters and reports of abduction. Carla would fly along and take notes. They eventually wrote a book called Secrets of the UFO, which was published in 1977, and is still considered one of the best in the field. I met Don and Carla in the fall of 1979, when I was living in the woods of central Kentucky, as part of a food buying co-op that met monthly to place orders. I'd recently heard Don and Carla interviewed on WKQQ radio in Lexington, Kentucky. The topic was UFOs, and I was very interested in meeting these two folks. Later, I discovered at one of our food co-op meetings that there was a group of folks living on the other side of the county who knew Don and Carla. They invited me to attend one of Don and Carla's Sunday meditations that they held in their apartment on Douglas Boulevard here in Louisville. Don and Carla warmly welcomed me to their meditation. And after we talked some, and I asked if it would be okay for me to attend the meditations regularly. So for the next year, I drove from Marion County to Louisville on Sundays to meditate with Don and Carla. Eventually, I helped them move from their apartment on Douglas Boulevard to a house on Waterson Trail in Jeffersontown, where we would soon live together and join our efforts in pursuing their work in meditation, philosophy, metaphysics, and channeling. Carla had a gift that is sometimes called mediumship or channeling. She could contact intelligent sources of love and inspiration that some people call aliens and others angels. Carla's real gift, though, was the discernment of spirits. Whenever we meditated and an unseen spirit wished to speak through her, she would always challenge that spirit in the name of Jesus Christ, her Lord and Savior. If the unseen spirit could not say that Jesus is Lord, Carla would now not allow the entity to speak through her. Throughout her life as a Christian mystic who had this ability to discern spirits, she always asked her priest to look at her work and let her know if he thought it was acceptable. The first priest she asked this question of was Bishop Marmion. He realized that she was serving people who did not go to church. And so he said to her, your work is based on giving and receiving love, whether it's done in a church or not. You are Christ to these people. You are their contact with his love. Treat them as sheep of his flock. Eventually, Carla, Don Elkins, and I were involved in what came to be called the Law of One, or the Raw Contact. We completed 106 sessions of this channeled contact. which is the work for which Carla is best known around the world. After Don Elkins died in 1984, Carla and I continued the work of LL Research with weekly Sunday meditations, further channeling, speaking engagements around the country, and Carla also offered herself as a counselor to those who had questions about their life's path and how they might be aided by the information that we've been privileged to make available. All totaled, Carla either authored or channeled over a dozen books during her life, counseled hundreds of seekers of truth, spoke to thousands of people at spiritual gatherings, and in everything that she did, she happily and naturally shared her love of life and her love of people. In 1987, Carla and I were married at Calvary Episcopal Church. We were married for 28 years and together for 35. Her last 5 years were spent mostly in a hospital bed at home, attempting to recover from back surgery. Though she experienced a great deal of pain and limitation, she never complained, even once, about her situation. She faced all of her life with love and a happy heart that she freely shared with all who came her way. She saw all people as souls, no matter the outer behavior, full of love of their true selves, and she loved them without reservation, without limit, and with all her being, for love was the greatest quality she could channel through her wide open heart. The greatest love of her life was Jesus Christ and her spiritual family that lives all over the world, and especially here at St. Luke's. For over a decade, she's been a part of the parish of this wonderful church. For the last 5 years of her life, she was unable to attend in person, but she always felt that she was here in spirit, sharing her love for each person within the walls of this family church. She was so grateful to Carolyn Edelman for bringing her weekly communion that fed her soul. She chose every part of this memorial service as a means by which to glorify God in the passing of her earthly life and as a reaffirmation of her belief in Jesus Christ as a Son of God and her personal Savior. She was truly the love of my life, and I think about her every day. And I would also add that she chose to be of service to another way after she was gone by donating her body to the University of Louisville Medical School, because she had so many physical problems with her body that she thought that they could probably find something helpful in there to help other people. And so about a year later, when they gave me her ashes back, I went around my yard in my flower gardens and spread the ashes to bless every part of the yard with that little bit of her presence.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing the eulogy and sharing the stories. And yeah, I think I've heard you speak to a number of those things at various times in our Q&A sessions over the last few years. But yeah, so many things that I didn't know about before. I really just love the visual of this little 3-year-old girl trying to lug a 20-pound hymnal down the procession at her church and joining a choir of what I can only assume were folks way, way older than she.
Yeah, there was an adult choir at St. Mark's Episcopal Church. And I don't know if anybody else that young has ever sang in an adult choir, but she had a beautiful voice. My neighbor across the street used to take her over here to St. Luke's for their choir practice, and Carla could either sing soprano or alto. And the thing that the choir director really liked was that she knew when to come in to bring her section in. And so if everybody followed her lead, then everything would be done on time.
Nice. Yeah, somehow not surprising at all. Would you mind sharing us a little bit more about the memorial service? I know before we started recording, you had mentioned that most everybody in the congregation that day was not aware of the Law of One or aware of the channeling work that she had done. Can you share a little bit, any memories you have of that service and the people who were there and how they responded to it, to the eulogy?
Well, I only got really one person's response, and that was my neighbor who lives about two doors down here, Cecil Caldwell. Afterwards, she came up to me and she said, "I've never heard anything like that in my life. That was amazing."
Nice. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she had not. So amazing. So at the gathering, at the memorial service, were there many folks who knew Carla through the Law of One, or was it pretty much all folks from the church and
No, there were quite a few, like friends and family, people who come from different parts of the country to join. And that was why she wanted to put it off for almost 3 weeks
Mm,
on the 17th of April, so
right,
that those people could join. And many of them were Law of One students, and we were glad to see them. It had been a while.
right. Yeah, super fascinating. I did want to note we do have quite a few people on the Zoom call today. And as mentioned, today our session is dedicated to Carla, her memory, and her special place in our hearts. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Jim about Carla, go ahead, put them in the chat window, and we'll go ahead and go in order. Otherwise, yeah, I was a little bit curious about the bishop that you mentioned in the eulogy that Carla had asked about her channeling work. And yeah, I would imagine in most conventional mainstream church congregations I can think of, that's not something that the clergy would particularly approve of. And yet this one seemed to have a very different, shall we say, enlightened view about it. Can you share a little bit more about either that person or any of the struggle, internal conflicts maybe that Carla felt in terms of the channeling work she was done and the Christian church congregation she was such a devoted member of?
Well, she always checked in with Bishop Marmion about the work that she was doing in channeling, because she wanted to be sure that it didn't, go too far out of the bounds of what he believed. She knew that he was more liberal than most. In fact, I believe he was the bishop of the Episcopal Church in Kentucky. So when I mentioned Bishop Marmion in my eulogy at St. Luke's, somebody in the choir said, "Ah, Bishop Marmion?" He liked that too. So yeah, she wanted to check in with him, and she did from time to time.
That's really neat. That is really beautiful. That is really special. I do see a few questions in the chat window, so if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and go straight over there. I do see Lewis and Gary and Elaine for starters. So, Lewis, would you like to go first? Unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning, Jim, and thanks for sharing that eulogy. So my question was, did Carla have a special place in nature where she liked to spend any time, whether in meditation or just getting away from more developed areas?
Yes, she liked being in nature, and she especially liked trees. Uh, Before she went to school, and she was like 3 or 4 years old, whenever it rained outside, I don't know why she chose the time of rain, she would take all her clothes off, run outside, and hug a tree. So you know, she loved nature and especially trees.
Wow. That is a great visual. You have any follow-up questions on that, Lewis? What a great question.
Not at this moment. Thank you. That was an awesome story.
It's a great question. Thanks for asking. Mr. Gary Bean, would you like to ask a question? And thank you for joining us. Thank you, you and Trish, for being with us today.
Yeah, so good to see everybody. Hello, Jim. Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, Gary and Trish.
So I didn't know we'd be asking these out loud, so I just I combined it all into one. So, Jim, if you don't mind, I'll split this into two. The first part being, can you talk about the circumstance of your first meeting with Carla and what your first impression was the first time you saw her?
Well, I think you remember that when I was living in the woods of central Kentucky, I didn't have any power, but I did have a battery-powered radio. So I heard an interview with Don and Carla on WKQQ radio in Lexington. And they were talking about UFOs, but they weren't talking about what they look like. They were talking about the one great original thought of love. And so I said, I'd like to get to meet them so if I could. But after a month or so, some folks who were in the same food buying co-op that I was in, I told them about that. And they said, well, we're members of their Sunday night meditation group. So you can come up and we'll introduce you. So I went up there. It was about a 70-mile drive. And they were on Douglas Boulevard, 2120 Douglas Boulevard on the second floor. So when I got up there and knocked on the door, Don Elkins opened the door, and I looked up, and I said, "Hi, I'm Jim McCarty, and I understand that you all have something to do with UFOs." He kind of looked at me like people said that Don tended to look through them, that he could see something in them that maybe they didn't want them to see. But when I saw him, I thought, this guy knows something. I'd like to get to know him. So he introduced me to Carl at that time. And I can't tell you the exact date, but it was a Sunday night meditation somewhere in 1979.
And your first impression of Carla and when he introduced her to you?
Well, I thought, well, this is a nice looking lady. Um, and I've heard that she has channeling abilities. And I remember when I asked questions, and I had a lot of questions in those days. I still have questions, but she was able to channel answers that just filled my soul with love and joy. And I thought, that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. It was the first channeling I'd ever heard. I was familiar with Jane Roberts and her channeling of Seth. And that was the first channeling I ever read in 1972. But this channeling was different. And I think it was because of Carly and the love that was in her heart that became part of everything she channeled. It was like the medium through which the channeled material went. So we got to know each other and spent more time together. And eventually, like I said before, I helped them move out to Waterson Trail where we had the raw contact.
Yeah, so it sounds like she filled your green ray upon first meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Channeling. So thank you. And then the second and final part of my question is, at what point did your relationship turn romantic, and who kissed who first?
Thank you for asking the question everyone else was thinking, Gary.
Well, after one trip or one load of things, I was helping them move to, this time it was just Carla and I think Morris helped along too, but this time it was just Carla and I. And after I got the load unloaded, we had a hug in the kitchen. And it was a hug that neither of us wanted to see end. So I think it was maybe when we went back for another load, we took a little time out for a kiss or two, and maybe a little more.
That's so sweet.
You said we took a moment out for a kiss. Was there one initiator there, or was it mutual?
I think it was mutual, as I
Mutual.
remember it. The
Okay.
hug was definitely mutual. I remember that very clearly.
Thank you so
That's
much, Jim.
Thanks, Gary.
Great questions. Thank you for asking. Oh, so such a beautiful, memory, priceless. Raquel, did you have a follow-up question?
I did. And thank you, Gary, for opening this lane, because I had a question, but I wanted to be respectful about it. And thank you, Jim, so much for being here and sharing the eulogy. It was beautiful to visually see as you were reading what took place during that day. But yeah, to keep on the topic that Gary started, I was wondering, I know that you and Carla had green ray sexual energy transfer. And my question is, was it always physical? Or because I know you have the ability, you said, to use, to get, I guess, orgasms in your mind, or through the, you just taught
Third eye.
Yeah. So
Third eye
I'm just,
chakra.
was it always a physical exchange between you and Carla, or did it just happen sometimes with you guys sitting beside each other, holding hands, or, it's just curious how it felt between you and her when you exchanged that energy. And did it feel different before Carla? Like, because, some of us, we're not all experiencing green ray energy transfer. So was it different before Carla? And then with Carla, was it always physical? And then did it feel different?
Well, as to the question as sitting by her, was it possible to have an energy exchange? It may have been. I did not feel any at that time. But the sexual energy exchanges had to occur with our hearts open. Our hearts have been open for a long time. So that is something that we did as at first we weren't doing it as part of the raw contact. We were doing it because we were lovers. Don and Carla did not have sex together after the first 6 months of their being together. And Carla always thought that it was probably because he didn't like the fluids that were involved, because he was kind of a neatnik. So it turned out really well that they did not have sexual relations, because I was, very much attracted to her and she was attracted to me. We just felt like it was meant to be. So we began having our sexual energy exchanges before we knew that they aided the raw contact. And the only reason we figured out they did aid it was one night we had it before the raw contact, and the next day, which we had session 16, which is one of the longest in the whole 106 sessions we had with raw. So we figured it out that if we did that night before, then there would be an energy exchange that we could use to help the raw contact last longer. And if we devoted it to the creator, which Carla was always so devoted to doing, making every gesture and move and part of her life as a way of serving the creator, then the energy exchange was enhanced. And if we both had orgasms, the exchange was doubled. So we always from that point on, when we figured that out, we dedicated all of our sexual energy exchanges to the creator, and we didn't have sex at any other time. But fortunately, there were 106 sessions. So.
Well, now you're just bragging.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And just so did you have previous exchanges before Carla, and did it feel different with Carla because it was Green Ray at that time? That's what I'm trying to get to understand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I forgot that part of your question. Yes, it did feel different with Carla. That's for sure. I'd had a number of sexual exchanges with other people, and they were fun. I enjoyed it. I think both of us did. The number of them there were, but it was nothing like with Carla.
Yes,
that was different. That was a whole nother level of beingness. I think it got into what Ra later called the sacred nature of sexuality. But we weren't trying to do anything magical. Well, I guess it was magical. It helped the raw contact.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I know it's a little bit personal, but thank you.
That's okay. I don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking the questions, Raquel, that I'm sure so many of us have wondered about. I did have one follow-up on that, Jim, if you don't mind my asking. So was there a ritual that you would do before sexual energy exchanges? Was there a prayer or meditation or speaking of words in any way?
It was very
in terms
simple.
of the dedication to creator?
It was very simple. We just dedicated the sexual exchange before to the creator.
Mentally or like spoken out loud?
Verbally.
Verbally. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I think that is something only the other 8 billion people on the planet could hope to aspire to, perhaps someday, some incarnation. Elaine, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hi, Jim.
Hi,
Thanks.
Elaine. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is so beautiful. So I think about Carla so much, and one thing that, I think about and wonder about is she had so much pain, physical pain and catalyst in her life. And how did she remain so cheerful, and as you spoke about, non-complaining um, during such intense physical painful catalyst? And I was also wondering if when she could no longer sing in the church, if she sang at home, especially when she was maybe not feeling well or in pain, as a way to kind of help focus um, her energy away from the physical pain and into the music, because music is so healing and the vibrations of it are comforting.
Yeah. Well, I'll take your last question first. When she was in her hospital bed here, um, we did a ritual together that she had been doing since, I guess, she was 19 years old. I now call it morning offering, where we read from the Bible, read from another book that was inspiring to us. And then she would sing from her hymnal. And I couldn't read music, so I let her sing. But she would sing from the hymnal. And so, yeah, she continued the singing. regarding the pain that she's felt so much in her life, that I believe was a pre-incarnative choice to have her not do anything with her physical body that would take her away from channeling, meditation, contemplation, service of the Creator. And if she did other things, got too physically active, her body would start hurting more because she had rheumatoid arthritis. And I always thought that interesting that rheumatoid arthritis is RA. And so she chose that as a way of limiting her doing the thing, but she still liked to do things. So after a while, the way she handled the pain was to ignore it. And she could ignore a lot of pain. And I think Ross suggested at one point that that was not a great idea. That was something like becoming a martyr. So they kind of suggested to her that maybe she'd want to try to take another path there and not use her will so much to forget the pain, to power her way into another raw contact, because nothing gave her more joy than being able to channel those of Ra as a means of discovering more of what the nature of the creation and the Creator was. And so this could be shared with everybody. So I think she eventually was able to kind of rein herself in a bit, but I don't think that great desire ever went away to serve all others, including the Creator, with her love and the Creator's love that flowed through her heart.
Thank you. I do have a follow-up, if it's
Okay.
okay. And you don't have to answer this, or I don't know if this is not appropriate, but did she take pain medication or anything, medications to help with the pain, or she just powered through it and ignored it? And
No, during the raw
I'm
contact, she did not
curious.
take any kind of pain medication. The
Mm,
only time she ever took pain medication was in her hospital bed here in what was then our room, because the pain then was from a back surgery that would not heal. It was about 6 inches by 8 inches and a half inch deep. And that pain medication was something that said, to her, if she couldn't heal, then that, probably she would never channel again, because the pain medication made her sleepy and kind of
right.
dopey. And
Mm,
so that was the end of her channeling before
mm,
that surgery.
mm, mm. Okay. Thank you so
Thank you for
much,
your
Jim.
question.
Mm.
Great questions, Elaine. I was wondering the very same thing. Appreciate your asking. Adam, you have a question you'd like to ask? And then I see Neely after that. And I don't see any other questions in the chat window. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, go ahead, put it in there and we'll make sure you have time to do it. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up after that.
Thank you,
Adam?
Jim. Thank you, Jim, for being here and answering questions. I had, from my current understanding, a little playful roasting between friends. I think it's really healthy and can build closeness and trust and help us not to take ourselves too serious. I'm curious, did you and Carla ever like lovingly roast each other? And then from a Law of One perspective, do you think lighthearted teasing amongst close friends can be a form of service and helping connect and open the heart?
Well, we certainly liked telling jokes and having fun together. That was just part of our lifestyle. Um, in a related manner, shall I say, in order to avoid having conflicts or difficulties that would get larger and larger, Carla had a rule that I accepted from her. And that was never let the sun set on a disagreement. Because if you go to bed and get up and it hasn't been taken care of, it's going to get bigger. So whenever we did have a problem, we talked it out and shared from our heart and ended up with a loving hug and a kiss or two.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that, if you don't mind. It's not really the same question, but it is related to humor. Session 67 was the session where Don kept asking Ra if there was anything they could do to be of service to the fifth density negative entity that was sending psychic greetings to mainly Carla, but the whole group. And at some point, Ra said, there is great humor in your attempt to be of polarized service to the opposite polarity. Or later, you need, in our humble opinion, to look at the humor of the situation and relinquish your desire to serve where no service is requested. Do you remember if Carla saw the humor in that later on, after that session?
I don't remember. As time has gone on, I've never, and at the time, I never really understood why he was brought to be so helpful to the negative entities, because it was just a session or two later, the Carla almost left her body during a public channeling meditation, conscious channeling. And if she had, she would have been taken into negative time space by our negative fifth density friend. And it would be a long road back. So I think maybe Don figured out after that that maybe he was being a little too generous. I never knew, though. I really don't know why.
Well, I definitely get the sense that it was coming from a pure heart. And
Yeah,
that
he wanted to be
one,
of
he
service
was
to
really just
everyone.
trying to protect Carla and really just trying to keep her from having to go through all that. And in his mind, that's maybe how he saw as a way to do that. Otherwise, let's see. I believe Neely has a question, and then I think Josh has a question also that just appeared. Go ahead, Neely.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Neely, like you and your dog.
Thank you, and thank you
Cutie.
for coming. My question is about Carla's childhood and upbringing. I remember reading about her having a difficult time with her parents up to the point that she didn't want to live anymore. And I've been dealing with my own childhood trauma these past few months, and just wondering if she ever dealt with it directly as she grew older as a person, and if so, what was she doing? What were her methods of dealing with that?
Well, I think that eventually, when she was quite a bit older, before I actually met her, I think she was in her 20s or so, that her mom liked to spend a lot of money on clothes for her mom and not so much for Carla. And so they traded letters back and forth for a while, uh, because that was one of the later expressions of the childhood trauma she was sharing. And she let her mom know that she didn't feel like she was being seen for who she was, a child that maybe deserved a little bit more attention, a little more love. And maybe it could take the form of clothes. Sometimes Carla loved clothes. Um, so she and her mom then started going out shopping together. And her mom kind of made up for the early years when she didn't buy clothes, and bought clothes for Carla. And Carla would be very happy that she did that. And I think Carla would buy something, I don't remember what it was, for her mom, kind of as an exchange. So I think they resolved their difficulties, but it was a long road, and it did take some time. Her mother was an alcoholic for a while, and Carla, in a way of trying to help out, would go over and try to stay with her and help her. And as far as she knew, her mom was aware that she was there and helping her. But the next time she would see her and her mom was sober, her mom didn't remember those times. So it was kind of a long road, but I think they did eventually resolve the difficulties they had, Carla had with her mom and her mom with Carla.
Thank you. Just as a little follow-up to this, so childhood wounds can make you become the feelings of unworthiness, as was mentioned in the raw contact, and all of those like self-worth issues. Was she doing actively something about that, or how did that heal? Because resolving the issue with a parent is one thing, but resolving the wound that you carry is another. And I was kind of wondering if anything helped there.
Yes. Ra described Carla's experience when she was a child as learning how to give love without expectation of return, when she was cooking for the family, taking care of her little brother, and all the other things she did. Uh, then at another point, Ross said that in order for Carla to be able to feel self-worth of the Indigo Ray Energy Center, she would need to learn how to accept the love offerings of others to balance giving with that expectation of return. So in the last 4 years of her life, when she was in the hospital bed in our room, she gladly accepted my helping her to get dressed to go to see doctors, to get food, to give her massages, and to help her get to the toilet. So I believe that was a way of Carla being able to balance that giving with that expectation of return with accepting love offerings of others that probably did give her that feeling of self-worth. And it also gave me a chance to welcome her into my room, which was symbolic as welcoming into her my heart, and open my heart in a way that had never been opened before.
This is beautiful. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Such beautiful sharings. Thank you so much, both of you, for allowing that. Josh has a question, and I see Mendiza has a question after that. Let's see. Are you there, Josh? Is your mic? There we go.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Joshua.
Jim,
Good to see you.
thank you for being here and taking our questions. Let me pull up the chat. I think you mentioned that a few years ago, Carla visited you in a dream. I think I had asked you about meditation. You said she kind of taught you a new meditation technique, which was square breathing, focusing on the third eye or something like that.
Right.
Did she ever give you other teachings in dreams or other forms of contact with Carla?
She gave me a lot of information in dreams after she passed into larger life. I had 100 dreams about her in the first year. And most of them were very inspiring. They helped me in not only to discover another way of meditating, but she gave me, well, how can I say this? A larger view of my own life and how I had become a part of her life in which there would not be any opportunity to be together again until I finished my work here on this planet in my body. And that if I steadfastly pursued that seeking of the one creator in every way I possibly could, then at some point shortly thereafter, we would be together again.
Wow. So beautiful. Any follow-ups on that, Josh?
Yes, thank you very much, Jim, for your beautiful answer. One other question is, have you ever consciously channeled Carla like Barbara did Aaron and recorded it and published it?
No, I've never consciously channeled her. I have gotten a number of messages from her that I've written down in my dream journal, but I'd have to go back and look at them right now. But
is that something you think is possible, or just?
I've heard words in my head from her before. I guess I could have spoken them, but I mostly just wrote them down.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That would be kind of an interesting, weird, freaky thing. Never even crossed my mind to consider doing that, but appreciate your channeling quote. That's for sure. Thanks for the question, Josh. I believe we have one more question from Mendiza.
Hi, Jim. It's so nice to meet you. I'm like so excited right now. Law of One has just touched my life in so many ways. And so I feel like a fangirl. I'm like, oh my God. So I just want to say that first off, thank you so much. I was curious because Carla was a Christian first and then, or well, always was Christian, but kind of found out more with the UFOs and ETs. How did she feel about that in the beginning? Like, was she thinking like this can't be real, that these both these things exist? Because I find in my waking experience with people, it's either one or the other. Somebody's like very big UFO person and then no kind of religious background, but not really both. And I find myself in that procurement. I'm like, oh yeah, I believe in both. And I was just curious, like, what was her evolution with that?
Well, all of her life, she was a mystical Christian. She didn't do the dogma. She especially liked the red print of Jesus in the King James Version of the Bible. So it wasn't hard for her to see that something like UFOs could be possible. The creation and the creator that she was trying to serve with all her life had all of that and much more that we'll never be able to understand within its being as ways to know itself. So she didn't have any problem with it. No.
It's a great question. Any follow-ups on that, Mendiza?
No, I think that makes sense to me. I was just curious, because she had like I always have in my mind that memory when you were talking about when she was a little girl and she was able to, join spirit, and I just think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I actually had a pickup question I think Josh was asking about with dreams. So my mom passed away a few years ago, and she visits me a lot, but she often doesn't speak. Like she'll be in a situation with me in the dream and she's not really saying anything. And I was curious if Carla, when she comes to you, is she like talking with you, or do you kind of just know what she's trying to tell you?
Well, these days I don't work much with dreams. I was given information a few years ago, just shortly after Carla passed away, that my work now is meditation and not dreams. But like I said, in the year after she passed into larger life, I had 100 dreams with her. And in those dreams, she was right there. And we were together and we were doing things together and going places. And I sometimes I would wake up, I think, wow, that was real. That was real. I want to go back. And sometimes I would go back to sleep and another dream would come.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
So thank you for your question. I love your plants behind you. Mother-in-law's tongue. Is that a?
Yeah, we have the. Thank you so much. These are my friends.
Oh yeah, I love those too. I have the three mother-in-law's tongues I have. One's right behind me and two are over there are Carla's dad's. So they're about 80 years old.
Hope I'm that lucky. I hope. I'm like, please don't go on me. Thank
Is
you,
there a
Jim.
good story behind how they got named mother-in-law tongues? Are they like thorny or something, or what?
I don't know how they got that name. No, they don't have thorns on them. I do have plants with thorns on them, but I don't know how they got that name.
Oh, funny. Interesting. Well, I wanted to thank everyone on the Zoom call for being here, and I wanted to thank you for sharing questions. It's been a really beautiful and special time, and I cannot think of a better way to end our time together than a little pop quiz. Pop quizzes, of course, are just something we like to do to end our time together on a fun note. And since we have been celebrating the 10th anniversary of Carla's passing into larger life on April 1st, 2015, on a holiday known as April Fool's Day, it seems only fitting to have a pop quiz on the history of this very special holiday, celebrated all around the world, as a matter of fact. The history of April Fool's Day goes back quite a ways. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you 3 questions about April Fool's Day, see how many you get correct. Anybody on the Zoom call, you're welcome to type your answers in the chat window if you want. Anyone watching this on video, you can say your answers out loud. We can hear you through the screen. Otherwise, Jim, are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. The earliest recorded reference to an April Fool's Day prank is from what year? Is it A, 1561, B, 1661, or C, 1761?
Wow, I had no idea. I just have to guess B, 1661.
Seems like a reasonable guess. In fact, the correct answer is A, 1561. Wow. Nobody really knows exactly how the April Fool's Day prank tradition started, which I guess is perhaps the best April Fool's prank of all. But the earliest recording of it was a Flemish writer back in 1561 who published a comical poem about a nobleman who hatches a plan to send his servant back and forth on absurd errands on April 1st, supposedly to prepare for a wedding feast. But there are references to that day being a day for that kind of thing. That's the oldest occurrence of it happening. How about this one? A little bit later, an April Fool's prank was popular in London during the 18th and 19th centuries when gullible townsfolk were invited to the Tower of London that day to observe the ceremony of what? Was it A, gathering the swans, B, washing the lions, or C, judging the seals?
Gathering the swans.
None of these really make any sense at all. But apparently, for some reason, it was the washing the lions.
They wash lions? And
I don't know. I guess it makes about as much sense as anything else in London, I suppose. But
okay.
Yeah, interesting enough.
So the car wash, they had a lion wash.
Yeah, right. I think I'd rather wash the car. Yeah. How about this one? This last one. This is a little bit more recent. In 2008, pranksters at the BBC, British Broadcasting Company, reported that during the filming of their natural history series, Miracles of Evolution, they had captured footage of what? Is it A, penguins flying, B, trees growing spaghetti, or C, a shark giving virgin birth?
All three of those are impossible. Penguins flying.
And the correct answer is, we're going to roll the video for this one.
This recently discovered colony of penguins is unlike any other. They don't need to huddle together every winter for protection against the bitter cold, because these little fellas can do something no other penguins can.
They did.
Yeah, there you go.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
This was in 2008. Didn't even know they had that technology there.
Well, how about that? I actually got it right.
That's Terry Jones from Monty Python, by the way.
Well, they fly thousands of miles to the rainforests of South America, where they spend the winter basking in the tropical sun.
You gotta be kidding. Wow.
Like swallows returning to Capistrano, indeed. Yeah. They did actually make another video before that on trees in Switzerland supposedly growing spaghetti, talking
Really?
about the spaghetti harvest in Switzerland, and if you YouTube spaghetti trees, you'll see it there. Apparently, many people believed it and called trying to find out where they could get some. And there are actually have been documented evidences of sharks, some sharks giving virgin birth, some species of sharks in aquariums with
Really?
no male sharks present have managed to do it. It's called parthenogenesis. I guess it has
Right.
happened.
Yeah, I knew the parthenogenesis, but really, wow. Okay, so all of them were correct eventually.
Eventually, yeah. But you got that one with the penguins for sure. Well done. As always, it's been a joy hanging out together. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this time on this very special day for all of us. Jim, did you have any last thoughts, reflections wanted to share before we say goodbye?
I just want to thank everybody for having the questions about Carla so I could share more about her. I mean, she had an endless nature to her spirit. There's so much that could be shared, and I've tried to share everything I could remember, but you all helped me remember a few things just by asking the questions. So we work together as a team, and I thank every one of you. Your open hearts and Carla's open heart and my open heart are together. And we did it. We made it through, and I didn't cry too much.
No, but those tears are pure gold. Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much for sharing them with us. Jim, thank you as always for everything you've done and continue to do in service to others, and to all the friends at L&L Research. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To everyone on the Zoom call today, thank you for being here and helping us all be together as brothers and sisters in love and in spirit. And to anyone watching this on video later in the near or distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai, namaste.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for